What's up, guys? Welcome back. I'm here with my frenemy, a.k.a. Bald Eagle, a.k.a. Brian. What's up, bud? Welcome back.
Thanks. I'm happy to be back again. So last time was not a fluke. So I think we're here to make this at least relatively a regular thing here. So thanks for having me back.
I love doing these Alviso commentaries with you, man. They're weekly, so we're going to have plenty of content. And there's always something to talk about. And speaking of frenemies, there was a guy in the comments section from our last video who was like, dude, you got to stop using the term frenemies. And to him, I say, frenemies is here to stay. So let's just get right into it, shall we?
Sounds good.
All right, we've cut ahead a little bit. We're still pretty early on in the race, though. And there's Zach on my left on the red BMC, SJBC. He brought out a couple of teammates, I think 3 other teammates. I think there were 4 of them. They were putting the hurt on me today. And there's another, so that's the older kit right there, that guy that just passed, a little bit darker blue. Anyway, you guys know Zach. He was in the last couple of videos, and he's fast. He can ride a breakaway. He can sprint. He's definitely a guy I look out for. He's launching an attack right now off the front, and I'm out of position. So what do you think, Brian? I got to chase that down.
Right from the very beginning, I think you have to make your presence known, but I think SJBC is actually making their presence known. Then they're kind of showing their cards as maybe you have a target on your back today, because Brian, that rider behind you, while he's in the old kit, that's a teammate of Zach, and he just followed your wheel the entire time.
So Zach's up the road. It looks like he's on the front, so that's good at least. At least Zach's doing a little bit of work. But meanwhile, I got Brian sitting in my draft. Wind wasn't much of a factor today, so he's just getting a good draft right now. I'm pushing some decent watts. I'm dropping it back down here, hoping that that Brian will come around me and chase. But nope, they're playing the team thing today, and it's gonna hurt me in the long run for sure. We're gonna look at some more examples of how they did that. All right, we are about a lap later. Still pretty early on in this race, to be honest, and SJBC's already made their presence known, and here goes Brian, the guy that was on my wheel before, throwing down an attack. Now I got to be part of this, right? Because if SJBC gets off the front, Zach, who's going to be sitting in the group behind, isn't going to be doing any work, and it's going to be up to me or other people who missed it to chase this back. So I want to be part of it, right?
Yeah, and you don't have any teammates, right?
I have no teammates, so I have to be represented in any threatening move off the front.
Yeah, as soon as there's any team with, I would say, more than 2 or 3 riders, or any group, with 2 or 3 riders, you have to always have some form of presence known, and in this case, it has to be with SJBC. But there was an additional rider coming across there, and it looks like that was probably Zach by the looks of it in your rear view, if Brian moved over to the side a little bit. Now, did you know Zach had come across at this point? Yep, that's him.
I didn't know that he'd come across until probably right now, right in this instant. I was probably like, "Whoa, it's Zach," because that's kind of a weird thing to do, which is jump across. And he did it successfully. He didn't bring anybody with him, but to jump across to a group that's got your teammate in it is a bold move. Not one I usually recommend for teammates of my own, but he made it work. So that was good. Now it's a 2 versus 1 situation.
Yeah, and I think the reality is we've talked in the past about basically always making sure that you or your teammate is the strongest person in any group that can go to the line. And I think maybe he was evaluating whether or not his teammate Brian could beat you in a sprint finish if you two stayed away. And I think he liked his chances of having a 2-on-1 there. But I think more importantly, their own presence in this breakaway is really showing that they're gunning for you, right? I mean, you are literally being ganged up on from having Zach in front of you here and Brian behind you in the draft. It's just the 3 of you, 2-on-1. I don't know, it was some Belgian director years ago from watching on the era of Lance Armstrong and stuff, and I think there was something of saying like 2-on-1, you lose 100% of the time. So what are your thoughts here on kind of their cards and having 2 riders against you, and really how does that set up for what you're going to do next?
So you noticed I just took a poll. I'm in the rotation here. So here's one thing. I think most people would make the mistake of being like, oh, it's 2 versus 1. I'm just going to sit on and not do anything. But what'll end up happening is if these 2 guys are going to play any strategy whatsoever, it's going to be they're going to start attacking me if I decide to sit on and not do any work. So I don't want that to happen because that's going to be really painful. I figure it's better if I just take a very measured pull in this group and keep it rolling and make sure that it's smooth. That A, it helps their chances of staying away, and B, it prevents any situation where I'm going to get dropped. And I'm going to continue working, and if this group makes it to the finish, then I'm going to play my card then. I still feel confident that I can win from this group. It might be pretty difficult, but hey, winning out of a group of 3, even with 2 guys that are on the same team, is probably easier than winning out of a group of like 30, which is the group that's behind. That's my thought process right now.
Yeah, I think you gotta take that measured risk, and I think 33% chance of winning, even if nothing happens here, is pretty solid. Now, I think the only thing I would be thinking about is kind of subsequent counter moves. So, for example, if I was in a bigger race, and let's say, like you said, there SJBC maybe has another rider, maybe 2 more that could be doing damage, I assume that they would be sitting on behind. So if I was racing against you right now, Jeff, and this was, say, Mike's, and then I'm in a 2-on-1 with, I know that Mike's is going to have additional riders in the pack that are going to hit me as soon as we're caught. So I need to be thinking about something I mentioned in the last video, which is making sure I'm not vulnerable when you get caught, thinking about what time you're going to get caught. So I'd always be checking over my shoulder on these long straightaways and being like, okay, not to measure how hard I'm going to push in the sense of like, okay, well, I have 13 kilometers to go, but more so to think about, okay, am I going to be caught in a place when I am actually had just taken a pole, or am I going to get caught after having a solid rest behind two other riders? And it looks like you guys are getting caught right now. So
yeah. And to your point, I have to commend the SJBC boys for doing a pretty good job at that, because you're going to see in a second we're caught. I had just finished my pole, and then Brian was, if you were paying attention earlier, he was taking kind of smaller turns, and he's going to go again right here. Check it out. And not real hard, but enough to force me to do one more effort to close it down to him, which is kind of the last thing you want to do after sitting in a failed breakaway move, which is go again and drag Zach behind you. And now I'm attacking. I mean, not really attacking, but I'm putting in a little surge here, because now it's like I just don't want that counter to be a real doozy. I'm worried that the SJBC guys are going to put me on the back foot, which they kind of already have, to be honest, at this point in the race. So let's get forward a little bit more and see how the rest of this race plays out. All right, here we are, a few Ks later, and there's a small move off the front. You can see SJBC has missed it. The 3 of them are right here in front of me. One guy just passed me on my right. There goes Brian with Zach in tow. This is like a good team tactic right here. So now Zach's getting a free ride, and I'm thinking if these 2 guys, SJBC guys, get across to this move off the front, that's race over, right?
yeah, and I think having not just 2 guys, but basically the majority. There's no other teams up there with more than 1 rider, right? So you're going to have to be chasing no matter what if you don't make it across.
Nip it in the bud.
Yeah, you have to get it early. Well, the gap is only a few bike lengths, because bike lengths turn the minutes very fast.
And it's worth mentioning that I was 1 wheel behind Zach when Brian went. Zach was immediately in his teammate's tow, so he got a free ride across to that group. I did not, and it might not have seemed like much, but all of these little matches that are burnt leave me with not much for the finish. So again, kudos to the SJBC boys for putting the hurt on me today.
Yeah, it's actually a really good point you mentioned there. You were only a bike length off, and yet you spent about 30 seconds using matches. So just think about that when you tell yourself, hey, I'm really close to the front. Really be critical. Like 1 or 2 bike lengths is not, it's not a linear progression down the pack, right? It can mean multiple matches. It can mean big sprints. It can mean big watts, especially when you start thinking about how that's setting up for sprints or attacks or counterattacks. So don't ever give up 1 wheel, and don't ever sit. If you know somebody is your target, just like they did for you, don't ever let them out of your sight and off of your wheel, or you on their wheel.
Yeah. All right, we're a little bit later on. This is 6 Ks to go. I think we're coming into 2 laps to go. I'm probably a little too close to the front, and I'm running out of steam here, guys. They're hurting me, and here goes. You're seeing a trend here. You're seeing a pattern. here goes Bryan again, making me do a 900-watt surge to jump across. And again, doesn't seem like much, but these all add up to a lot of fatigue in the legs.
Yeah, and I think you need to always be thinking about if you know you have a target on your back and the front, if you're at the front of the pack, you're not going to be able to use any of that momentum. So if you're tired after covering moves all day like you were, Jeff, like you got to be protected and you got to be in their draft, not vice versa.
Yeah, I was out of position for sure. That one probably could have been prevented or avoided. Let's fast forward a bit, maybe the last lap. All right. Now we are like lap and a half to go. Out of position again on the front like an idiot, and there goes Zach punishing me for it. Smart attack by Zach, right?
Yeah, I mean, that was just a counterattack to Brian's move, 500 meters before that, and you were susceptible on the front, and he did the right move there. I mean, he watched some of the past videos, which is how to use teammates to win races and, gang up on a rider and counterattack and hit, right? So he did a great job there, especially at the end of the race when you're 172. That's pretty high heart rate for you. You're on the limit.
Yeah, and you saw his attack too. It was a doozy, and I should have known better. I mean, I was just talking about that last one. I was too close to the front. Bryan attacked me, and then this one I was too close to the front, and Zach attacked me. So, yeah, those probably could have been avoided, but let's. So I'm basically going to sit on here. This attack I am not going to respond to. I'm going to let the SJBC boys deal with that. Basically, from here on out, I'm going to save as much of my legs as possible for the sprint finish. Let's cut to the last lap.
Yeah, so now we're on the last lap here, and I see a lot of movement forward and coming backwards as well here. So what's kind of going through your mind here? Are you where you want to be, Jeff? Because I think, I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 8 riders back, but some guys are attacking. It looks like there's still some riders potentially on the front. People are tired. It's been a surgy ride. Is this where you want to be?
Yeah, good question. That's really what you should be asking yourself, guys. Last lap of a crit is all about position. And if you're not in the position you want to be, you have to burn matches to get into the right position. And I was up until you saw that gap of 2 riders just kind of flow off the front right there. But I do like about 8th wheel in this position. You can respond to those things just in case people don't stitch it up. It looks like Tracy is going to stitch this one up. But yeah, I do like 8th wheel through here. Maybe 10th or 12th would be a little bit better, but it kind of depends on who's in front of you too, right?
Yeah, I think you have to think about what, we mentioned earlier that every single bike length matters and what wheel you're on matters, but also understanding who the people in front of you are is very critical. So understanding if the riders in front of you are going to let the wheels go and let the gaps open, or if they're the type to dig down and hold on to that wheel for everything they have with everything they have.
And now look at this though.
Whoa.
Yeah, now it's just falling apart. Yeah, so now I'm definitely not in the position I want to be in. Now
I love these chaotic sprints.
This is all you, man. This had your name on it right here. I don't even have to look back. I know that Zach is on my wheel at this point. Now Bryan has gone across to this group. And I absolutely have to close this down. Just yet another gap that I have to stitch up, and I am hurting for certain at this point.
And I think having to closing gaps with 600-700 meters to go is never where you want to be.
Yeah, definitely not, especially with your nemesis on your wheel getting all the draft. And now I'm thinking this is a pretty good position, but then this guy in front of me lets the gap open up, and I see Bryan taking off, and I'm like, okay, with 350 meters I absolutely have to close this down or else it's just race over. So I kind of step on it a little bit, and then I realize, Bryan's done, he's cooked. So now I'm in this weird awkward position where I'm doing like 700 watts. I'm basically leading Zach out for the finish, and with about 150-200 meters to go I just step on it, but that's all she's got. I cannot shovel any more coal into the furnace, and head is down, and here comes Zach with the bike throw win.
Sniped.
Heartbreaking.
So I want to point out props to Zach there, because he was with 60-70 meters to go, he was still like behind you, so he came around in about 70 meters. So for those riding and racing their peers, don't ever give up till that line, because for all practical purposes Jeff looked like he had it won. And if you're the person in front and you're in Jeff's situation, don't ever let up until you're past that line, because
yeah, I was fading and he was just gaining speed. So it was a good win by Zach, and it was a good team race by SJBC. So thanks for watching, guys. Hey, Brian, always a pleasure to have you on, man.
Always a pleasure to see you get beat at Alviso. So glad to be here.